Welcome to the 100th episode of the Casual Birder podcast. In this bumper episode, singer-songwriter Stephenie Seymour and storyteller Marylee Stephenson join me for a chat about the joy of watching birds. And we hear from friends of the show who've sent congratulatory messages for reaching this milestone. Welcome to the Casual Birder podcast. I'm Suzy Buttress. As a casual birder, I take time to watch birds as I go about my daily tasks. In my show, I'll tell you about the wild birds I've seen, speak with other enthusiasts, take bird walks, and share stories from listeners around the world. In case you missed it, last episode I shared my experiences of the Global Big Day, a 24-hour event which encouraged birders to see as many species as possible within their local area. Members of the Casual Birder podcast team had a range of birding experience from novice to expert, and we saw 430 species in locations in Australia, UK and Europe, and North America. I described my big day, where I saw 54 species, visited 2 RSPB reserves, did a spot of garden bird watching from the bedroom window in the morning, and got very wet. Do take a listen. This episode is brought to you by Casual Birder Weekly, the show's newsletter. In it, I share exclusive updates and videos about the birds I've seen, tips to help you get the best birding experiences, recommendations for other podcasts or books I've enjoyed, and I let you know about any planned group birdwatch events. Sign up now. The link is in the episode notes. Welcome to the 100th episode of the Casual Birder podcast. To celebrate, I invited Stephenie Seymour and Marylee Stephenson to join me in a live-streamed conversation about our birding passions. I'll be presenting an edited version of the chat a little later on. If you wish, you can watch the full replay of the conversation on the Facebook page of the Casual Birder podcast. It'll also shortly be available to watch on my podcast's YouTube channel. Throughout this episode, I'll be sharing messages from past guests and friends of the show in celebration of the 100 episode milestone.
Hi Suzy, Paul Chill here. A very casual congratulations on the centenary episode of your show. I've been listening to the Casual Birder pod since inception, and without a doubt it's been a great inspiration to me in taking an active interest in my own garden birds. And gosh, you've not only done a great show, but you've put yourself about in so many ways to help and promote the podcasting community. Well done, Suzy, and bye-bye for now.
Hey Suzy, happy birthday to your podcast, The Casual Birder. 100 episodes, amazing. It seems like only yesterday that we went to Regent's Park to record an episode together, and I pretty consistently misidentified birds, and you helped to tell me what the birds actually were, so thank you for that. And I hope we get to do that again sometime in the future. Here's to another 100 episodes. No, forget that. Here's to another 1,000 episodes. Happy birthday, Casual Birder.
Hi Suzy, this is Steve from Sharp Podcast. Massive congratulations on your 100th episode of The Casual Birder. It's such an achievement. Now I don't know if people know, but not only do you do so much for the world of birding, but I know that you work tirelessly promoting the world of podcasting too. And people need to know this. You are a hero, and it is no surprise you've got to episode 100. It's a brilliant achievement. Thank you so much for your sharing, your caring, and your support over the years. You are one of the stars. Big up, Suzy, at the Casual Birder podcast. Whoop, whoop. I think that's a finch, isn't it?
Hello, Suzy. It's Alan from Savannah. I just wanted to congratulate you on 100 episodes. You've done such an amazing job in the last couple of years. I remember when I was sitting outside of the dentist's office and your first episode came on my podcast thingamajig. And you talked about, if I remember correctly, it was blackbirds, and I loved every second of it. You are brilliant, you're amazing, and I'm so proud of you, Suzy.
Kieran Lee Vines says, Happy 100 episodes. Thank you for what you do and for being the podcaster that got me hooked on podcasts. Yours will always hold a special place, and I'm looking forward to the next 100. Here's a recent recording of a cuckoo to celebrate your milestone.
Hi, this is Kate Shaw from Strange Animals Podcast. I started birdwatching seriously, more or less, in 2014, and at first I would just go birding on my own. Then I convinced my Aunt Janice to join me and discovered that it's even more fun with a friend, just like most things are. Janice is better than I am at birding by ear, while I'm usually faster to find and focus on a bird with my binoculars. So we make a good team. We even have a ridiculous celebratory dance we do when we spot a live bird, or just an exciting bird, or pretty much any bird if we're in a really good mood. I'm sure we sometimes irritate the kind of serious birders who speak in whispers, but I guarantee you, we have the most fun of any birder in the park. We're both really looking forward to being able to bird together again soon, now that we're both fully vaccinated. Thank you, science. Our current goal is to spot an American bittern, but they're only visitors during migration where we live. Maybe we'll find one this fall and can do our silly bird dance. Congratulations on the Casual Birder's 100th episode.
4 years ago, in May 2017, I first had the idea for creating this podcast. I'm a really big fan of the medium of podcasting. I like how you can find shows that align with your interests and mindset, and also hear from people with outlooks or experience that are different to your own. Podcasts provide entertainment, education, and enrichment, and when you find shows and hosts that you love, it feels like you've found a friend. I've been listening to podcasts for over a decade, mostly comedy or interview shows, and more recently I've been listening to other bird and nature podcasts too. I've been involved in the podcast fan community for several years, supporting the Maximum Fun podcast network. This brought me into contact with others that had created podcasts and sowed the seed for me producing my own show. I've loved watching birds since I was a child. I'd also built up a store of non-scientific observations of bird behaviour. Making a podcast seemed a great way to share these with like-minded people around the world. I did lots of research into how to podcast and connected with other podcasters to benefit from their experience. And in November 2017, I launched my show, focusing on the joy of watching birds. There have been a few bumps along the way, but I can truly say it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I'll be honest, watching birds is a selfish activity for me. It brings me joy and peace of mind. There's a calmness I feel when sitting on a hillside or in my garden, watching the clouds roll by, feeling the sun on my face, listening to the leaves rustling in the breeze, listening to birdsong and calls around me, and watching the birds and their behaviours. Through my show, I've come into contact with people who are actively working to support nature. It's widened my experience and widened my knowledge. And I'm moving towards being more of an advocate for nature rather than just consuming it for my personal enjoyment, although I still think there's a place for that, because personal connection leads us to wanting to preserve what we enjoy. There have been so many unexpected benefits of having my show. I've made deep friendships with people both in the podcasting world and in the birding world. I've increased my knowledge and skills in a variety of areas. My curiosity and interest in birds has grown, leading me to discover more about individual species, the experiences of other birders, and our impact on the natural world. And on the podcast side, I've learned about sound recording and editing, production processes, marketing, and I've taken an active role in the podcasting community, connecting with and supporting other podcasters. I'm very proud that I've created something that people enjoy.
Hi Suzy, it's Will Treasure. We met at the London Podcast Festival in 2017, which of course you'll know, and that was before either of us had ever actually made a podcast, so we were at similar points but making quite different shows. I've just been in awe of you over the last 4 years, the way you've built a community around the Casual Birder podcast, as well as getting involved in other things in the podcast space, in meetups, and generally just being a good egg and supportive of other people creating shows. Keep up the good work, and here's to another 100 episodes.
Hi Suzy, Lev here. Don't know if you can hear it, but outside there's a blackbird singing to celebrate the 100th episode of the Casual Birder podcast. Oh, and a robin. Probably won't come out on the recording. But anyway, I join them in congratulating you on 100 episodes of your excellent podcast, and here's to the next 100 after that.
Hey, Suzy. Happy 100th episode. This is Dom. I remember talking about your very first episode and you wondering if people would love it. And I think 100 episodes later, people do. I really enjoy it because even though I'm not an active birder, knowing your show exists and hearing about your show makes me pay attention to birds. You know, like today I saw a couple of magpies in a very heated discussion. And if it wasn't for you, I would have not paid so much attention to that. So I want to thank you for putting this out there, for showing yourself, and for letting us see the wonders of local bird life around us. Thank you, and to another 100 more episodes.
Hi there, it's Karin from Oulu in Finland, wishing you many congratulations on the 100 episodes of the Casual Birder podcast. Amazing achievement, Suzy. Thank you so much for all the effort and work that you put in. I've been interested in birds as long as I can remember, and up until 12 years ago was in England doing my bird watching. Then I moved here to Finland. And one thing that I found about the podcast is that it really helps see me through the winter months when it's pretty dark and gets very cold and bleak here, and many of the birds have flown. And hearing reports from what's going on in England and other places in the world, I realise that these birds cover far more distance than I do. They come here, they fly away, and they're somewhere. And it's lovely to know that they're somewhere and to hear from people of maybe some of the birds that come up here every spring. So congratulations again, and here's to many more podcasts. I look forward to listening to them all. Cheers for now.
Congratulations on episode 100. Enjoy all of your podcasts. Birding means to me something along the lines of solace and connectivity. Thanks very much for all your podding, and good luck for the next 100 from Mel.
We're in Ringwood, New Jersey for Suzy's 100th episode celebration. Doing a little morning song. Listen. Oh, that's the red-bellied woodpecker. That sweet song is the robin, American robin. There's goldfinches in the background. There was just a little baby fox over in the garden. We have a fox den with 3 babies. So that background chatter is all goldfinches, American goldfinches. And the beautiful song is the robin. I just want to say congratulations, Suzy. Like, your show is amazing. It brings birds and bird watching to so many people in such a wonderful way, and it's so great what you do, and it's really appreciated, and it's a joy to listen to. So congratulations on a great milestone, and thank you from Ringwood, New Jersey.
And from Stephenie's yard, we now join her and Marylee Stephenson for our bird chat from the recent live stream. Stephenie is a singer-songwriter and keen birder from New Jersey on the east coast of America. Stephenie produced an album of songs called There Are Birds, which you can hear more about in episode 69. Marylee Stephenson is an amateur naturalist birder, storyteller and stand-up comedian from North Vancouver in British Columbia, Canada. Marylee has written a guidebook to the Galapagos Islands and is currently teaching a class for seniors about nature. Marylee, you've created a course called Neighborhood Nature?
That's right, because, I don't want people to think you got to go to some giant national park or even the Galapagos to see nature. It is right around you. And so that's what it's called, Neighborhood Nature. And Simon Fraser University here has a continuing studies for seniors 55 plus series, usually four sessions and so forth. And so the third one is coming up in July. It'll be virtual. But yeah, then their main thing is they need to do some observation right in their neighborhood. I don't care what it is. They could see a dead rat. They do the observation, but you must link it in your learning objectives. You must link it to climate change. And so, yes, I do that. And that has met with a lot of success. And I like to think it is achieving its goal in the sense of people seeing, just being aware, but then again, linking it to the larger issues and stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think that's something that's so important. These sorts of courses are a great way to keep engaged with what's going on in the world. It's quite easy to sort of close yourself off. And I think being engaged like that is brilliant. And Stephenie, your album, There Are Birds, I remember when we first connected and you told me about it. And gosh, you've had such an amazing career in the music world. But do you want to tell us a little bit about your There Are Birds album? Oh, and before you do, I'm sorry to jump in, but someone on one of the posts that I did today mentioned they'd seen a Veery. And whenever I hear the word Veery, I've never seen one. Whenever I hear it, straight away, I'm straight in your album.
Yes.
Hearing your song.
That's the title track on the record, the first
Wonderful.
song.
Wonderful.
Well, not the title, that's the first song. Yeah, well, the album is a 12-song record that is really, it's based, every song is named after a bird except for the last song, which is called Migration Is Over, which is kind of a humorous song actually. But yeah, it's sort of an ode. It's my ode to birds and bird watching, and it's sort of like a rock and roll ode to birds, even though it's not like every song's got a bird call in it or something like that. It's sort of my interpretation of life through birds, I guess I would say.
Yeah, it's a wonderful album, and I highly recommend everyone gets it. And I know that sometimes there are deals on with.
Yes, we actually have a deal on this whole week.
Oh, wonderful!
ThereAreBirds.com.
There you go. So check it out. Now, what birds have you seen recently? Have you had a magic moment with birds? We'll start with Stephenie.
I wanted to talk about my most thrilling experience of this whole season. I think I'm a hawk watcher, and I have a hawk watch in my yard. That's my own yard's hawk watch, but it's registered with the Hawk Migration Association of North America. And so I record data for them for spring and fall hawk watches. And this season, I have seen over 2,300 hawks over my yard in Ringwood in New Jersey. But the most... I was inching up to 2,300 and I was 2 birds away from it. And I was like, I wonder if I'm going to make it, And I was sitting outside the first day with my camera and literally had 0 birds. And I was just thinking, it's not going to happen. But the next day the winds shifted and I said, okay, this is the day. I know it. So I was sitting and 2299 was an osprey that flew over and I got a picture of it. And then I was like, I had my camera and I was like shaking. I was so nervous, like, please let me get a picture of this next bird, whatever it is. And right over me comes a beautiful broadwing hawk. And I got a picture. I got a few pictures actually. And it was just like the anticipation of what was the bird going to be. I didn't want it to be a speck over on the horizon either. I wanted to see it really well. And it happened. So that was so exciting for me.
That is amazing. That is so awesome. And the number of birds that you see during the migration period, because you're on a flyway, aren't you?
I am on a flyway. I'm in the Ramapo Mountains, and I am on a nice flyway on the East Coast. And, on a good day, well, last fall, you do remember, I think I told you the number of broadwing hawks in a single day I got was 2,221, but that's highly unusual. Usually a good day is like 500 or so. That's a really good day for broadwings. But that's what really adds to my total. Yeah.
Isn't there a place called Hawk Mountain in Vermont or something that's very famous for this?
Pennsylvania, Hawk Mountain Sanctuary. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share a comment that's come through. Unfortunately, we don't know who has said it because Facebook doesn't tell you unless you've given them permission. But this person said that that's an amazing number of hawks spotted. What types of hawks have you been spotting?
The great number of them are broad-wing hawks. Many are turkey vultures. I get a lot of accipiters like sharp-shinned hawks and Cooper's hawks, red-tailed hawks. In the beginning of spring or towards the end of fall, I get a lot of red-shouldered hawks. Osprey, just pretty much I have a wide variety. A rarity would be a Mississippi kite. That's what I'm waiting for one day, and or like a swallowtail kite, but I get the majority of hawks that all the hawk watchers see.
Right. And it was Mike Drew that asked that question. And Mike was my guest on an episode which is to come out, but was live last week. So you may have seen that. And that's still available to watch on YouTube.
It's wonderful. The migratory birds ones, and he had the sonograms and stuff. It was fantastic.
Oh, cool. I also forgot to mention, I do get eagles too, quite a lot of bald, and I do get the occasional golden eagle. So that's always a thrill. And I've had 2 goshawks as well. And
that's one of the things that has encouraged me to explore more about what birds are seen around. I've got lots of guidebooks, but it's quite daunting just to open a guidebook and start looking through. But starting to talk to people from different areas, especially like Stephenie, you've mentioned some of the birds you've seen, has encouraged me to then go and look up and read about those birds. And thinking about the distribution, because you mentioned about seeing golden eagles, which we have in the UK as well, and goshawks, which I've only ever seen one of, but hope to see more, and the ospreys, of course. And it's amazing that, birds, you learn a lot more about the distribution of birds to understand that some of the birds that we see over here in the UK can be seen in other places around the world.
Yes, exactly.
Marylee, what birds have you seen recently, or what has been a particular bird of note for you?
Well, this morning I can report on 2 ospreys because there's that creek near where I live. I jog down there. And they have a nesting pole, because they built a big dry dock there and tore down a natural nest. And so some worker, I don't know, 15 years ago had an artificial one built. And this has been used consistently. And I can get really good views of it because I'm on a sort of a berm. There's a creek, and then there's all that work yards, and it's up there. So I can, with a decent camera, get wonderful pictures, but not bother them or anything like that. And it's just of course, tremendously exciting. And sometimes I'll be standing there. I finally got a monopod. I don't want to be too techie, but I got tired of just holding this camera up. So I could stand there for a half hour, 45 minutes, and maybe they'll do something and maybe they won't. And I got them pictures of them mating. And now, when they fly, you get wonderful pictures. I'm not a photographer in the sense of the photograph coming first.
I'm the same way.
I'm very big into ethical photography.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, if you're that far away, although close, it's nice if they spread their wings because you can. And yesterday, one brings in this fish, and I can see that it's a flounder, a flatfish like a halibut. And its head's gone because I think it eats the head first and then brings it to the nest and leaves a little for the other person and partner and stands there. But it's just to be and the other day I saw it coming in and I thought, well, it's going to come into the nest. But no, it's over ocean water, right? It did that kind of, I like to give you accurate representations. It's going like they do, to stay in one place. I said it helicoptered so that it could decide whether it was going to really dive for something.
Wow.
You see something like that and it's just magic. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's cool.
My most memorable birding recently has been, we actually had a vacation away for a week and went to Suffolk, and I don't know if you can hear any of the rain and howling wind that's happening outside right now where I am, but our summer is not going well at the moment. And we had a couple of dry days, but it also coincided with the International Dawn Chorus Day and with the Global Big Day, the big bird watch that we all did. And what was wonderful about the house the rental accommodation that we'd chosen, it had a really big back garden and front garden. So it meant that I had kind of grounds I could wander around that were fairly rural. And it was really interesting to hear the difference. So last year when we were in lockdown, the first lockdown, most of the road traffic disappeared, and we had very quiet mornings where we could really hear the birdsong. But since then, the lockdowns have not been as severe, although people have been requested to stay home. Essential work has still happened, and so people have still been driving their cars. And so that background road noise, when you live in an urban area, the background road noise has just continued. But being in Suffolk, this particular area was quite rural. And I was getting up, sort of 5:15 in the morning because the birds were already singing and it was daylight or coming towards daylight. And just standing outside and hearing the birds, there was no traffic at all. And just standing, watching the daylight come and watching the moon disappear and watching the light come to the sky, and then just hearing birds, layers on layers of birds. And this wasn't even in a woodland. This was just in a garden, near some farmland. But it just felt so amazing. It was so... I just, set up my recorders because I wanted to try to capture all of this to share for people. But then I was just standing there and being able to hear a bittern booming, which was in the nature reserve, which was like 10-minute walk from where we were staying. There were bitterns there, but the sound carries, and I heard it where I was in the garden. Amazing. And there was a cuckoo calling as well.
Oh, well.
And that was the first cuckoo I've heard this year. And actually, I don't get to hear cuckoos very often. I'm trying to make more of an effort to go to the regions where they are, but, life gets in the way sometimes. And so, or you have a weekend and it's raining and howling wind. So I don't get out as much. But to stand in a garden and to hear a cuckoo, to hear a bittern, and to hear turtle doves, which were also nearby. All three of those, well, the cuckoo I've heard before, but all three were really special birds for me to hear. But then amongst all of that was the layers upon layers of bird song, hearing blackbirds going off into the distance, hearing rooks in the trees, having some shelduck fly over. There were a couple of mallards, It was a real variety. And honestly, if I could, that would be somewhere I would long to live. It was just wonderful. I'm so
nice.
grateful to have had that experience. But yeah, so that was my special experience recently.
It sounds great.
But, one day I hope, Stephenie, that I'm going to come and join you on your deck to join in with the Hawk Watch.
Sure, it's just halfway. You come from England. I come from Vancouver.
Hey, yeah. We'll have a group bird watch. Fantastic.
We could go to Cape May.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
now that would be...
I love going there.
Absolutely
Talk
awesome.
about hawk watching. Oh, my goodness.
Because you go there regularly, don't you, Stephenie?
I try every fall. Yeah, I didn't go last fall because of everything, but I'm hoping to go this fall and spend a day or two at the Hawk Watch. Yes, I love it.
And again, before I had the show, I feel like a little bit embarrassed that I didn't know so much about the birding world. I've loved birds all my life, and I'm not a young person anymore, so I've had plenty of years to learn about birds. But it's really from connecting with others that I've learned about the bird migrations and how migration is such an awesome force of nature, something that happens that it's really easy to not kind of notice. Yeah, okay, we get these winter thrushes and they come over in the winter. But when I then look at some of these migration flyways and the massive amount of bird movement that happens, and even with Mike telling us about the nightingale and the journey that the nightingale makes, and though I know that swifts that have just turned up again in our area, they only come here for like about 12 weeks of a year to breed, and then they live the rest of the year in Africa, and I kind of know that. But really delving down into thinking about the size of these birds and the journeys they make,
it's incredible,
and how the weather patterns are so important, and seeing those radar pictures that they do for the flyways in America and Canada, the mass movement of birds moving up is just, it's really, really stunning, and it's such a big subject. But I'm starting to learn more about it and really appreciate it.
Could I add, related to that? I live out in the West, but for many years, Stephenie, I lived in the East, in Eastern Canada, originally from Florida and Georgia. But there's something, when you think of the migration, what's crucial all along those routes are the various bird banding, or I gather you call it bird ringing stations. And one of the things that I'm really supportive of is called the Pelee Island Bird Observatory. And it's right in the middle, the Central Flyway, right? And every year it was founded by Margaret Atwood and her husband, Graham Gibson, and through me, actually, because I used to teach at Windsor and I knew people had little cottages there because Point Pelee, the national park, was so crowded. And so I said, hey, and she said, one of the people I knew in Windsor said, I got my old cottage there. And so we all went there, and it went from there and from there. And it's also a marvelous example of community economic development, because at first the farmers didn't like people looking at binoculars. And then it turned out, to just be great in terms of the little cottages and everything like that, And so, but then they play a crucial role, and they just had a big fundraiser each year in the banding, because it's, they come across the Great Lakes, and the first land is Pelee Island. It's not Pelee National Park. And so it's just so important on every level, but a real example of that whole island of farmers and other people. That whole island is so aware of migration, of the importance of it. And it has been an economic boon to them. And so something like that, those kind of, not just the stair steps for birds along the way, but in a sense, the social stair steps, like Suzy's describing, of the awareness and the importance of it and all that, and then they have programs for school kids on the mainland and all. So that kind of thing in expanding your world out. I never saw anybody band a bird until 18 years ago, and every year they do the little banding. And so that's the importance of that. And then linking so crucially to climate change and to all of that.
100%.
Yeah. When you get a chance, Stephenie, to hear Mike Drew's talk, it's just superb how he pulls that together.
I was just going to refer back to Mike Drew, because he was mentioning about banding or ringing the nightingales and why it's so important to know where these birds are. And they get captured several times, knowing where they're spending their summers, knowing where they're spending the rest of the year, knowing the pressures on them from what's happening with droughts or with changing seasons, so that they don't have the food that that whole thing is known, because you know about an individual bird through the ringing or the banding.
And I also have friends that I believe the exact name of it is cellular tracking technologies, and they fit radio transmitters.
They do
on
that.
backs.
He showed it.
It's incredible. And they've been doing amazing work as well. I know Dave LaPuma does that, as well as, I don't know who all the people in the company are, but yeah, it's wonderful.
So again, it's all things that I'm learning. As I learn, I can share that knowledge and get to speak to the people involved in these initiatives.
Hi, Suzy. This is Andy from the Inspired Money Podcast. I want to congratulate you on 100 episodes of the Casual Birder Podcast. Very excited for you. It's so important to get outside, to get out, to take a walk, to clear our minds, especially during the last 12 months of craziness. I may not know what birds I'm always looking at, and that's why I enjoy listening to your show. I love your enthusiasm, and I can learn in hopes of knowing what kind of birds I'm looking at. Congrats again. Keep up the great work. Look forward to the next 100 episodes.
Hey, Suzy, congratulations on your 100th episode. That is super exciting. This is Steph from GeoPets Podcast Network. And I just wanted to say, from a very loud outdoor cafe in Tirana, Albania, I just wanted to say congratulations. It's been wonderful to watch your podcasting journey and to listen to what you produce, both on in YouTube and in your Facebook group and on the podcast. It's just been amazing to watch what you do. And I know you know this personally, but I want to say this to everyone. You have absolutely shaped or reshaped what I think of when I walk through a park, when I hear birds. When I see birds, when I hear something that is bird-like, I automatically think of the things that you taught me, both in your podcast and just in our chats. And it makes me really happy. This is a layer of nature that I did not dive into until talking to you about it. And I really, really am so excited to have that appreciation for birds that I didn't have before. So thank you and congratulations. You deserve all of the success and the bird encounters that you can handle. I was trying to think of a really witty way to say this, but basically just congratulations. Yay! Happy 100th.
Hi, Suzy and listeners. This is Jessica Delisle from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Just wanted to congratulate you on your 100th episode and also just tell you a little story about a bird that I saw recently. So for a little backstory, my friend has been trying to find an apartment recently, and it's a very stressful thing to do, and she's been getting me to come along with her to viewings, and it's just been a high stress time with the pandemic and everything else. So I parted ways with her after one of our many viewings, and as I was walking back home through a residential neighborhood, I heard a familiar sound, and it brightened up my mood, and I was like, oh, there must be a woodpecker nearby. And so I looked around for a dead tree because I know that they seem to prefer those, and I couldn't see one anywhere, but there was a telephone pole nearby. And I was like, it must be coming from there. And so I walked up to it, and I couldn't see where the woodpecker was, but I kept hearing the sound that its beak makes. And so I walked all the way around the telephone pole, and I kept looking, and I couldn't see it. And I felt like a total weirdo if anyone was looking at me. Like, why is this woman just circling a telephone pole? And then I had the idea, if I put my hand on the telephone pole, I would be able to feel the vibrations of the woodpecker. And I did that, and I was right. I felt the woodpecker, and then I learned that the woodpecker was right at the very top of the telephone pole, like right on the flat top, just sort of hammering away into that. And then I could see just the tail feathers, and it just made me so happy to just have this little bird mystery in the middle of kind of a stressful day. And it just made me laugh. And that's what birding and bird watching and birds mean to me. It's just like a fun, nice little relaxing treat that's all around us, and it's free, and it's just lovely. So thank you for asking me to share this, and here's to another 100 episodes. Bye!
Hey Suzy, this is Kobe off of Flixwatcher and the Wire Stripped. Congratulations to you for getting to your 100th episode of the Casual Birder podcast. Sorry for the noise you can hear around me. I'm on a walk with my son in a pram, and what we're doing now is we point out birds, and that's due in a large part to knowing you and taking an interest in nature. I love checking out the local birds in the park, especially the ring-necked parakeet, which is in Highgate Woods near me. Another birding experience which I really enjoy is when we went to Australia. When I went to Australia for the first time and saw a kookaburra, and they now are my favourite bird. I think we talked about them, and I think you told me that they're a kingfisher species or derivative. I don't know what the correct term there is. And I really enjoyed that little tidbit. So yeah, congratulations and welcome to the hundreds, and long may you continue.
Hi Suzy, it's Rachel from Hidden Wings and Bloodlust. I really like watching birds. It's really relaxing to see them all in the garden. And I also really like seeing a new bird that I haven't seen before, like yellow and grey wagtails and things. I just find it really relaxing, really, and I think your show is great. So congratulations on getting to the 100th episode, and carry on bird watching.
Hi, this is Faraz Abdul from Trinidad and Tobago, congratulating the Casual Birder podcast on reaching 100 episodes. And here's wishing for at least 100 more in the very near future. And all the best and happy birding, especially casual birding to everyone.
Hey, Suzy, congratulations on hitting 100. That means you are an order of magnitude better than any podcaster who's made 10 episodes, and 2 orders of magnitude better than every single podcaster just now releasing their first episode. Woohoo! Oh, by the way, it's Evo Terra. Thanks. Bye.
Dr. Amir Khan said, I can't believe you're already on your 100th episode. Congratulations. I have to say, I love the soothing nature of each episode and how accessible the things you talk about are for everyone. And of course, I thoroughly enjoyed appearing on one of the episodes. Here's to another 100 episodes. What is it that birding gives you? Why are you interested in birds? Marylee.
Let me go back to that peabo, to the Pelee Island bird. And again, I said it was Margaret Atwood and Graham Gibson. And Graham, her partner, who had died last year, was a superb birder and a very sort of literary man in his way. And he put together a book called The Bedside Book of Birds. It's recently been reissued. It is superb. Big book it's a miscellany, every kind of thing, essays, historic things, and then his own discussions in between, right? But one of his introductory essays is that if you're looking at birds, if you're a birder, there are times when you will experience rapture. And I think that is so central to things, even if it's a little junco bathing in a mud puddle next to you, but that sense of rapture. And ultimately, that's what draws me to it and keeps me with it, no matter what. It's just the beauty. It's like, oh, I'm into the beauty. But, that's that kind of thing and that sense of rapture that can happen. He was in the Galapagos and seeing an albatross go along. We were all there together and everything. And seeing that in the evening, just going and going and going. And that is a moment of rapture. But that can happen anywhere. But I got to say that Bedside Book of Birds is fantastic and available. It's not just a commercial. It is absolutely stunning.
I'm going to look that up, definitely.
Yeah, you can. It is reissued with a nice introduction by Margaret Atwood. It's beautifully produced, yeah.
Stephenie, what is it for you that draws you to birds?
When you had given us that question kind of before, I was thinking about it, like what makes me keep wanting to come back to it. And I feel like it's like the potential or the possibility of what you might see anywhere really on any given day. And, you could just be in your yard seeing a robin, and that's fantastic. Like, me, Suzy, I love anything else, and I'll talk to every bird.
And name them.
Yeah. But I mean, then there's also the possibility where you're going to get, a worm-eating warbler or hopefully a Mississippi kite fly over you. I mean, it's just like whatever, you might see anything at any time. And that is what just, it's a constant hook for me.
Yeah. It's a form. It's almost, I don't want to use such a harsh word, but it is an addiction in the sense of the compulsive, the repetitive nature.
Yeah.
I don't move it to addiction unless you're spending all your money and jumping off a cliff so you can see a peregrine thing. Then that, that reaches the addiction standpoint, I think. But certainly the compulsive nature, but it's for something beautiful.
Yeah, I always wonder why. Well, how can I sit outside every day and just wait for hawks to come? But it's because I never know what's coming next.
Yeah. You saying that, Stephenie, about sitting there and waiting because it's that period. The hawks are likely to fly through, but what will you see? How many will you see?
Yeah.
For me, one of my most wonderful days. I mean, I've been so fortunate to travel quite a lot and be able to bird in a lot of different places. But one of the best ever days for me was that day spent in that garden in Mexico, in Baja California. It was just, I got up really early and I just sat out there just to see what birds I was going to see. And almost before I knew it, it was sundown and I'd just been sitting out there that whole time. And I was so thankful that I'd decided to record my thoughts as I was sitting there so that I could actually make an episode out of it, because there's always the ulterior motive of making sure that I make an episode. But it's because I wanted to share that moment. And do you know what? On a purely selfish level, I'm so grateful that I made that episode, because I can go back and listen to that and I'm immediately back in that garden. I can hear the sounds around me and I still don't know all of the birds I was hearing. And there were quite possibly other birds around that I didn't see because I stayed in the garden that day. Mm-hmm. But it was just such a sublime day. It was beautiful. It was just perfect. There was the excitement because I was in a brand new country and didn't know really what I was going to see. I could have done lots of research beforehand so that I knew what I could tick off, but I almost left it as what was going to come to me, what was I going to see, and then could I work out? And, thank heavens that the orange-crowned warblers decided to bathe in the bird bath. So I eventually saw that they had an orange crown, because I'd have had no idea what this little green warbler
it's hard to ID those, yeah.
I think I'm just, a very lazy person. They're giving me a chair in a place where there's birds and I will sit and watch. And, standing out in that Suffolk garden for that dawn chorus. And then as, the dawn chorus wore away and the birds started going around their everyday business of, finding mates and marking territories and things, then I just got drawn into just watching what was going on, But being in a location where there are lots of birds and there's lots to hear and lots to see, that's just perfect for me.
But, if I may say, that reminds me of your Casual Birder podcast, because I've been on different ones, and the photography ones are birding ones. But this, I don't know how I ran across it, but it is so perfect because it's unpretentious.
Yeah.
But whether you're sitting there in Baja, California, and good luck, or you're sitting here in the lane in North Vancouver, you can see things, but also in the podcast and in the day-to-day Facebook things, people do talk back and forth, and it's not listers like, I just saw so-and-so, you're so stupid out there not to have seen it. You don't get that kind of thing. And people post their little birds and nobody says, that's just a house sparrow, friend. They don't do that. And then you see some very exotic, dramatic things, but you see regular things and you don't feel either stupid or competitive, in my view, in participating in it. And this is one of the few, not that I've done a scientific study, but I think it's one of the few of these kind of engaging things where it really does have a place for everybody. And you really can enter it at your own level, and you don't have to feel silly that it was this bird where it was eating some chips on the pavement, and you took a picture of it. I think that is just so, so great. And I'm so happy I found it for exactly that reason.
Thank you so much, Marylee. I mean, it's so lovely to hear that is how it comes across, because I absolutely want everyone to feel that there's a place for them in finding out about birds. And what's lovely about, I do go on about the group, and the group is a closed group, but you are welcome to join it as long as you are a listener to the show. But one of the things that I really try to encourage in the group, and a lot of it has come from the people who have joined, the community within the group are just wonderful. They help each other out. And we have so many different levels of experience. We have complete novices and we have really amazing experts. And yet everyone is sharing. And there is no judgment. If you have a picture you want to share and it's not perfect, because how many of us are expert photographers, but what you're trying to do is share the moment of what you saw, or maybe getting a bird ID, that can happen too. But I really appreciate you saying that, Marylee, that you've seen that's how it comes across, because that's the kind of community that I want to be part of. And I'm so grateful that that's what's built up around the show.
Sure seems that way to me. My sociological PhD self-evaluating programs. That's my conclusion based on careful field work.
Hey, this is Paul, and I am one of the hosts of the Varmints Podcast.
I'm Donna, and I'm the other host of the Varmints Podcast.
Suzy, congratulations on 100 episodes of the Casual Birder Podcast.
That is amazing.
It really is. And we want to just thank you so much. You've been so supportive of the show. You were a wonderful guest co-host one time. You contribute to the show so much. You are super supportive. And we just really appreciate it.
You make us less dumb about burbs, for sure.
That's right. She's actually made me more in tune with the birds that are around me. Like I pay attention to the birds that are around me more. I wouldn't consider myself a birder by any stretch of the imagination. I think I am probably a casual birder now because of her. But I do take notice of the birds that are around me a lot more than I used to.
If you listen to the Casual Birder Podcast, you will become a casual birder.
That's right. That's a good thing to become.
And Suzy is so knowledgeable about all the burbs. And she just has something interesting to say about them all the time, which is amazing, but she's also like a really nice person, just a really cool lady.
A genuinely nice person.
Genuinely
Absolutely.
kind person. We are happy to know. Congratulations on your 100th episode. Your show is awesome, and so are you.
Hey, Suzy. Congrats on your 100th episode. That's so amazing. I just love the way your podcast is so peaceful. It's lovely listening to you talking about birds and taking people out. I love hearing how people sort of open up in a sort of more interesting way sometimes, because I don't know, it's like being out with you walking and looking at birds kind of opens up a different parts of their brains, I guess. And it's just, there's something really peaceful about it in these hard times. It's been really pleasant to be able to have a consistent space, audio space that just is peaceful and about something completely unstressful, like birds and, you know, all the useful information that you impart. Especially for someone like me who knows next to nothing about birds, but I'm interested in birds. And I'm always looking out the window going, wonder what that one is. There's always something really common, but I'm always like, wow, I bet that's a super rare bird out there. And you're like, no, that's a pigeon. Anyway, congratulations. I know how hard you've worked over the years, and you've done an amazing job. And I'm just really happy for you that you've gotten to this stage and you continue to go from strength to strength. Lots of love from me, Sarah May.
This is Jeremy from the beautiful Pacific Northwest, Seattle specifically. I'm just sending a voice message to congratulate you a bunch on your 100th episode. And in terms of what bird watching means to me, I would say it just means a incredibly easy, accessible way, ideally, to get out into nature and enjoy the world around us and experience a little bit of a treasure hunt every day looking at birds. So again, congratulations on this milestone, and thank you so much for featuring me on your podcast twice.
Hey Suzy, it's Sarah. Congratulations on your 100th episode. Gordon and I have definitely gotten way more into birding because of you. What started out as one feeder is now like 6 bird feeders. They're all over the place. It's wonderful. We love it. Every time a new bird shows up, we get really excited, go to all of our books to look it up, look about info on each bird and learn about them and learn about their habits. And it's been really fascinating for us. We've gotten a lot of action in our yard so far. Can't wait to attract new and different birds with new and different feeders. And we're also learning how to help the birds through online resources and tracking them. And it's been a lot of fun and really fascinating. And I promise the next time we go on a walk together, we'll have more time. I will be able to set off more time so that we can have a longer walk together and experience more together. Thank you for everything, Suzy. You're amazing. Congratulations again.
Paul Fenwick said, "Congratulations on your first 100 episodes, and I'm excited for you and your podcast's future. Your genuine passion shines through with each episode, and this trait is the driving force that draws us to your virtual community. The all-inclusive atmosphere of your platforms, no matter what level of experience one brings to the table, allows us to harmoniously engage in the avian world around us. Thank you for producing such meaningful content, and here's to the next 100 episodes." Karen Van Bargen said, "Suzy, I'm so pleased you've achieved 100 episodes, such a milestone. I discovered your podcast very early on and have listened avidly ever since, as your approach to birding is very relatable. I find your content to be fascinatingly varied, and your guests have been, across the board, interesting to learn from. I very much look forward to your continued success. Cheers." Is there something that you wish you knew when you were starting out, or just like a really great top tip that you want to share? Stephenie, you're nodding. I can see you're bubbling over with tips to share.
I just have like 3 simple things that I was, thinking about. One is like, don't be afraid to ask questions, because, no question is a stupid question. And sometimes people feel embarrassed or whatever to ask, but more experienced birders usually love to share their knowledge with people. So do ask questions. That's how you learn. Another thing is like that I've also learned is don't be afraid to be wrong about an identification. If you shout out something that is wrong, like even all birders have been in your position, all expert birders have had to come from somewhere, so don't, I'm always learning something. Not that I'm an expert birder, but I'm just saying like everyone learns all the time. And if you're shouting out the wrong thing, oh, well, just learn why it's not the correct ID, try to listen to what someone says and why it's not, but don't be embarrassed about that. And the last thing I would just say is like, also, don't be afraid to point out birds. If you're in a group of people and you see a bird, point it out, because chances are you might be the only one to see it. And even if a group is like focused on one bird, there's a whole other range of stuff going on around you. Look around, and just a tiny quick story like that is, I was in Texas on a trip a few years ago, and we had someone told us there was a tropical parula in this one spot. And so all of us were like trained in this one area. And I'm like, everyone's looking over here. I'm going to look over here. And there it was. So, you just look around, maybe just keep your thoughts that, there's a whole 360 view.
They do that on purpose, They just wait until everybody's looking the other way.
Well, that has happened to me on whale watching trips, actually, when, you see a whale go down and then everyone's like waiting for it to come up. And I'm thinking, hold on, why are you all looking over there? It could be here. And lots of times it's come up right next to me.
Totally.
It's just been amazing. Yeah. Having used that with whales, why don't I use that with birds too? I will remember that one. Marylee, do you have some tips for new birders or people that want to improve?
Don't be intimidated by, it's really what Stephenie's getting at, by people around you who know the details and who sometimes will pull a little bit of a thing on you that they know it. And so just realize that it is complicated long term, and you're there to see these wonderful things. And, having a basic book that just lists, well, this is the long wings and this is the beak or whatever. It's good. You can get those anywhere. And there's a lot of times in most cities of any size, you can get those nice plasticized folders, like Birds of Vancouver and all that. So don't let techie stuff and, it's got 3 wing bars get you down. The other thing is, from an equipment standpoint, you do not have to be intimidated by binoculars or binocular price. Okay, everybody's got or used to have back from World War II and Granddaddy one in their closet somewhere. Get it looked at, and all that. Or my belief is that, it's money, but you can get a very decent binocular for 100, 150, 200. You do not have to go over anything like that with decent brands, which I won't name and everything. But you don't have to be intimidated by that either, or somebody else has got the $3,000 pair. Well, you push them off a cliff, it works out okay. But definitely to get binoculars and just 7x35s, okay, don't get sold on, this is powerful, it's 10 power, you'll never be able to hold it. Just get a basic, modest one, but don't be intimidated by that. But then it is wonderful to have.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get used to it, but it is a very good thing to have.
Yeah, I've definitely recommended some binoculars on the much cheaper side, because if you're starting out, I don't think it's necessary to get the super duper high-end binoculars. What you want is just something that will bring the birds that little bit closer to help you with identification. As you get better, as you get more involved in the hobby, as perhaps you save up, you will be able to get better equipment. But that doesn't mean that the equipment that's at the cheaper end is bad. It's just, it's not going to be as super duper. And, I carry a little pair of £60 travel binoculars around with me, and I use them.
Is that money? I'm sorry, you don't mean to waste
£60. What's no. Although it can feel like it at the end of the day. No, those little tiny ones are tiny, but my more expensive binoculars that I have, I did splash out a few years ago and buy these, but then I stopped using them because they were so heavy to carry around. Now they are better, and when they're better at lower light levels. So in the dawn or at dusk, that's when they help me to see better, and there's less kind of aberration on the optics, so colours don't have strange outlines or anything. But with the cheaper ones, they're fine. I can shove them in my handbag. It doesn't matter if they get a little bit scratched because they're just my day-to-day things. But recently I started using a harness to hold my camera and my binoculars, and it's made a big difference.
I use a harness
really
too.
Self-conscious wearing it, but it made such a difference carrying the binoculars and the camera on this harness.
Yeah.
Well, I can add that I told you the other day that when I was first in England and when first was a bird watcher, and my girlfriend was very supportive of this, and so she bought me on her very modest income a pair of binoculars, and I used that the whole year there. I was in England in school, and I used it the first of being back here in Vancouver, and then I decided I don't know what it was, but I discovered that in fact it was so modest in price that they were not aimed directly. And I had been seeing all of my bird watching the first year and a half in all of these wonderful places in England out of one eye. But that was fine. There must have been a little balance from the other or something, but I realized no, and yet it was perfect. It did not get in the way of my learning or of my seeing wonderful things,
And one other tip that I would make is I would ask expert birders, people that really do know their stuff, to remember that you were once a beginner. Because as Marylee mentioned, sometimes people can be, and it's not necessarily out of being a mean person, it's just they're so enthusiastic and they have so much knowledge that sometimes you find yourself, and I've been in hides with people who know masses, and that's when it can feel a little bit intimidating. Do I go into that hide because I might ask the wrong thing? But yeah, just to ask people who are more experienced to remember that sometimes, and it's not talking down to people, but sometimes you might need to simplify language. Sometimes you might need to check back in with the person you're speaking to, that they are happy with what you're telling them, that you're not just throwing information at them, but you are engaging them. It can be really daunting to walk into a space where you feel like everyone's an expert and you're not. But we all have a right to be there. We all have a right to see the birds. So, go for it. I just noticed a couple of comments we've had. So this Facebook user has said, as a novice, I feel totally spoiled in the podcast group because I'm accessing all these amazing photos without contributing myself. Well, Facebook user, you can contribute yourself too. Actually, one of the things that's upcoming, I've been trying to think of posts for each day, something to act as a prompt. One of the things that Karin suggested was Saturday Snaps, where you can post a picture and it doesn't matter if it's not the most beautiful picture in the whole world of a bird. Cool. But if it's something that you really enjoy taking and, you want to share it, you go right ahead. We don't always take all the best photos, but sometimes it's the only photo we've got of a particular bird, and we were excited to see that bird. So let's go for it.
Particularly with phone, a lot of people, they're not used to a camera. They don't have a camera, but you can do, and it may be blurry and moving, but to use the phone, again, that's where in my class, I can convert it into a JPEG and I can put it, but they're not supposed to go out there. I was emphatic. You are not required to have other equipment to participate in this course. You could even do a drawing. So
Absolutely.
That's again that we don't want people to be intimidated from just loving and seeing those things. And so again, that sense of openness for your podcast seems to me fairly clear.
Stephenie and Marylee, would you like to tell us where we can find out more about you? Stephenie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, if you want to find out about my album called There Are Birds, it's literally therearebirds.com. Not hard to remember. And I am on Instagram under there_r_birds. And I also have a Bandcamp page. You can find me on Bandcamp by just searching that too. So, I don't know if anybody goes on the Humana website, but my Hawk Watch is called Purple Chickadee Hawk Watch. And if you go to hawkcount.org, it lists all the hawk watches in North America, but hawkcount.org, you can search and you can find Purple Chickadee Hawk Watch.
Marylee, where can people find out about you?
The big thing for me is my Facebook, Marylee on the Jog. The other one is the Galapagos book, Marylee Stephenson with a PH, and just a guidebook to the Galapagos in Ecuador. It's 2015. It's the third or fourth edition, but it still has a lot of meaning for travel because it's not just go to this hotel. It has a whole section on the birds, on the insects, on the human life, and then it goes site by site. So it still would be really useful, and I like to think pleasantly written. And I do, just to really go crazy, I have a YouTube channel, Marylee Stephenson YouTube, and that's my storytelling and my stand-up. It's not necessarily about birds, but it's kind of fun. And any of these kind of things, people can obviously get through me in direct message, and so then they could always hire me to do comedy for their birding convention. I can see it now. There I'll be. I'll wear little feathers and do the whole helicopter. But in fact, because I have a pretty diverse life, and we were talking about courses a little bit, Suzy, and if people wanted little workshops with their group or whatever. And I'm particularly aware of what you can do with seniors and what you can do with children or people who can't get out otherwise to bring these messages to them. So those would be the thing: the Facebook, the YouTube, the book. Thank you very much for this time.
It's amazing. And I'm just so grateful that I've got to meet both you, of you, and learn from you as well. Bringing together the podcasting and the birding, for me, I've learned so much about podcasting. I've learned so much from the podcasting community, and I still absolutely love it. All these years on, 3.5 years on, but I'm still learning about birds, and there's so much more to learn that, I'm just so excited about where the futures can take us. So I'm amazed that I've got to 100 episodes.
I know, it's amazing, Suzy. Yay,
and thank you. And yes, I absolutely look forward to the next 100, and let's see where it goes from there. Annika says, "Hi Suzy, I've had so many moments with birds and wildlife in general, but some occasionally stand out or mark you. One winter evening after dark, I was driving home from work. The route took me through a woodland and then past fields. I would always slow down a lot through the woods as I'd seen deer crossing there, and then would speed up a bit more on coming out of the trees. This time was a bit different. For a reason unknown to me, I felt I needed to go slowly. About 1/2 kilometre along, I saw a tawny owl sitting in the middle of the road, and because I was driving slowly, was easily able to drive around it and stop. I put on my hazard lights and went to see if it was injured, but not before another car came along. This one managed to stop only once the bumper was over the owl. I lifted this trusting, calm, and so extremely soft creature over to the verge, where I checked it for injuries, and found it completely unharmed. It sat in the grass for a while, and I worried it wouldn't move. I lifted it again to try to encourage it to fly, which it did, and landed a few metres away on a signpost. And it flew from that signpost after a few minutes. I turned my back for a moment, and it disappeared into the night, as it should. The encounter was magical. I even forgot to take a photo. It left me feeling so relaxed and as though I'd met an extraordinary creature. It doesn't quite explain it well enough. I felt I'd had an encounter, not just a sighting. Thank you so much for your podcasts, your Facebook page, and for giving me an enthusiasm boost. Congratulations on your 100th episode, and keep up the good work. Happy birding." Christopher Outlaw said, "I really identify with the casual birder ethos of delighting in whatever you happen to see. I came to your podcast after a few months of birdwatching and loved hearing about your and others' experiences of observing and identifying and misidentifying species. Your podcast was a real source of joy during the difficult lockdowns last year, and the theme tune always makes me smile as I think of how much it lifted my spirits. Recently, I've really enjoyed some of your interviews and bird walks. Thank you, Suzy, and all your guests and contributors." Do take a look at the show notes for contributor information and links to all the other shows mentioned in this episode. Personal recommendation is a powerful way to help others find the show. If you enjoy what you hear, please tell a friend, or give the show a shout out on social media. You can also help support the show's production by contributing to our tip jar. And the easiest way to do this is to buy me a virtual coffee. Your donations are very much appreciated. Tell me about your sightings by leaving me a message on SpeakPipe or on the contact form on my website, casualbirder.com. And sign up for my newsletter, Casual Birder Weekly. All of the links are in the episode notes. Thank you to Stephenie and Marylee for joining me in our live-streamed event. Thank you to my past guests and friends of the show for their lovely messages. And thanks most of all to you for listening each time. Thank you to Randy Braun for designing the artwork for the show. The theme music is Short Sleeve Shirt by the Drones. Thanks to them for letting me use it. Check out their website at dronesmusic.net. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you'll join me again for another episode of the Casual Birder podcast.